Hello and welcome to the Pikeville City Managers Report. I'm your host, Jill Fraley, along with Pikeville City Manager, as always, Donovan Blackburn, here to discuss a lot of great things happening in and around our city. We have a lot to get to today, so we're not going to waste a whole lot of time today, Donovan, because we have got a massive event coming up.
Yes.
It is Hillbilly Days. We have the rivers opening up the week after.
Yes.
So many wonderful things, as always, going on in our area. Hello to you.
Well,
today.
hello to you as well. It's always my pleasure. I look forward to these briefings, as I call them.
You know, we learn so much and we get to educate our community about the wonderful things going on in our area. So I think it is time well spent for sure.
Well, and I would agree with that, Jill. We had our actually our Pike TV Executive Board meeting yesterday, and of course the chairman was unable to attend, but the county judge is the vice chair, and he took the chair. But there was a lot of discussion spent upon the value of Pike TV for the community and how many people value what is now being brought into their homes. And you know, unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, but we are doing some moves right now. We'll talk about here in just a moment. And obviously, we've had some disruptions with Pike TV because of some of those technical moves.
Right.
We're back up and operational and everything's good, but we sure know when those interruptions take place because that's when the phone calls start.
You hear about it, you know, and I hear about it too, because if we don't have certain things where they're supposed to be,
Yes.
or people get used to watching a particular show, and some will even take their family calendars and write things there based upon the information that we give, kind of gets everybody out of sorts, but just like you said, speaks to the massive amount of impact that this type of program and certainly what Pike TV does for our community.
Well, and it's, you know, and another factor is again, it's so many different entities coming together, such as the county and the city and the university and schools and several others that come together to make this happen. And it's a great show of cooperation amongst the communities because everybody sees the value. You know, one of the comments I made yesterday is I've been traveling quite a bit on business here the last month, and I've had the opportunity to stay in a lot of hotels. And my nighttime is spent usually surfing the channel, seeing if they have a local government channel to see what they're displaying. And I've been in good communities, big size communities, and I honestly would say that I would put Pike TV up against anything that anybody is doing out there. It's top quality. We got top staff. Al and his leadership does an absolutely phenomenal job, and we're just very, very pleased with where we're heading and what we're able to bring to our community.
You know, I think he knows what he's doing, Mr. Al Greenfield.
Every now and then.
And I want to brag on him too. You know, he's in the studio with us right now, and he is looking at me at this moment. But I will tell you this: I don't think that we could have found any better person in the world in this field to take the helm of Pike TV.
I would agree with that, and if you don't believe that, just ask him, and he'll tell you.
Donovan, he will know it's a great
knows I'm joking.
A great group of people to be a part of, and certainly has a wonderful impact. And like you said, if it's not where it's supposed to be or the programming isn't there, you certainly do hear about it. And I do get responses all the time from people who say, "I didn't know this was happening,"
Right.
or "I don't get to watch, say, the news on other channels very much," or "I may not have a chance to listen, you know, God forbid, to the radio every time, but I do get a chance to go back online and see the shows too, and I do watch that." So that's a plus.
It's a big advantage to the community. A lot of communities don't have.
Glad to be a part of it.
Me too. Thank you.
Now, we have a big event coming up on the 19th, 20th, and 21st. It is the second largest event held in the state of Kentucky, next only to a little thing called the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
It is coming.
The little small event they have too in Louisville.
Yeah, a little small event, you know, so we're right there with them. We may take over the Derby Festival at some point. But we, of course, are talking about Hillbilly Days, our annual festival that we have every year that, you know, I talked to somebody earlier this week and I said, "What does Hillbilly Days mean to you?" And she said, "You know, it's a great time when people come together and they meet family members and they eat great food and they do lots of crazy things and have a good time. But the most important thing that Hillbilly Days does is gives to the children who need it the most."
That's a very key point. You know, as a Shriner, as a member of the Hillbilly Clan, it's important that we understand how this and why this event originated, and at the end of the day, what it means to the community. Plus, I mean, there's some economic advantages too. Obviously, our community is filled with a lot of people, but at the end of the day, the money that goes back to the Shriners' children that are in great need at times. You know, this fund, it's used for incidental needs that they have that traditionally their budget won't cover. So the hospital, they have their budget each year, they set it up, and then when these dollars come in, they're able to buy little extra amenities for the kids, and a lot of it, covers transportation costs. Some of it things like TVs and toys and those things too. Sometimes.
Well,
that
I
they're not
will
able to.
say this too, and I explained this further to the person I was speaking with. I said, the Shriners Hospital, if you've never been there and the things that the Shriners do, I encourage you maybe to take a tour of that place, because it is one of the most humbling experiences that you will ever have, bar none. But when a child is inflicted with a tragedy or a disease or something that you don't expect, regardless of what economic lifestyle you're from, you become the same.
Right.
It's that situation. And so this money goes to help those people who didn't expect things to happen, and it's used so wisely.
Well, we've got in my wife's family. She's got members of her family that's been treated since they were little, and now they're in the adult stage. But what it's done for that family and my wife's family is just truly a blessing. And again, regardless of what social or economic or social background you're in, it doesn't matter. They receive all, and at no cost to the child. So it's events like these that really heighten the awareness of the hospital, but also more importantly help raise the funding for those incidental needs that they have. So I commend all the Shriners and those members of the Hillbilly Clans that come in and celebrate this festival and help raise this money. It's a great thing to be a part of.
It is, and we have a great time celebrating.
We do, and one thing, there's obviously a lot of the same things that happens year after year that everybody looks so forward to is happening, everything from the fireworks to the parade to all the events going downtown. But they'll also, just forewarn, there's also a production company that's actually recording or taping this year. So it could end up in a couple different productions, but it is looking at happening. So just be aware that there'll probably be some cameras out on the street this time.
There will be some cameras on the street. And people say, well, what is a hillbilly? You wonder, what is a hillbilly? What is this? What is that? And I told them the other day, I said, here's the thing. To me, a hillbilly is just somebody it's from the mountains, obviously, that loves the mountains, that loves the culture and everything that is tied into that. And, I love to go to the river. I love to walk in the streets. I love to hike in the mountains. And if that makes me a hillbilly, then that's okay. I'll take that.
Well,
I will.
And I'm the same way. I'm very proud of my heritage and where we came from and what it represents. I've had the whether you want to call it a pleasure or not, of living in other areas, but every time I've moved away on business, I've wanted to come back home to the hills, because there's nothing like Eastern Kentucky mountain folk is what I call it.
Right.
And there's some others within the Appalachian region too that would qualify. But we're very proud of what we represent and how this community comes together time and time again. And the other thing, Jill, as you know, is that as people visit our region and area, they have one ideal of what we are and who we are under that hillbilly term. But when they get here, they find out that it's a totally different
For some reason, they want to come back.
Absolutely.
Again and again. So I think that's probably a pretty good thing.
It speaks very well to the area.
It does.
I will mention that this thing does kick off. We talk about the 19th on that Thursday being the first day, but that's really not the first day of the festival.
No, it's not. What are we looking at leading up to that?
Well, there is the day before, which is Wednesday, is actually one. Actually, we'll start working on it this Sunday. The carnival will move in Sunday. We'll have the river field will be closed. There's actually signage going up today letting everybody know that you have to have your vehicle off the river field. Then Wednesday is the big day. And then during that time, from Sunday until Wednesday, the chamber will be out marking the streets and putting everything down, the chalk and such. We'll be closing the parking garage Sunday because it actually has to be cleaned and washed down, and the electrical has to be put inside of it. So again, when folks come in on Monday, they'll find out that the garage is actually closed off. When I say the parking garage, is the first floor only. The second, third, and fourth floor on the entrance on the boulevard is open. And then on about 10 o'clock on Wednesday, Division Street will be partially blocked off because we start actually letting the vendors set up in the parking garage first. So they'll start setting up from about 10 on. They'll be finished by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock rolls around, or everybody by 6 p.m., all cars have to be off of the boulevard from the hotel from Hampton all the way down to the police station. And then all the Main Street, Huffman, 2nd Street, all that. Any vehicle that's in the way, unfortunately, will have to be towed. So there is signs that go up that tell folks that, but you have to be off the streets by Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
So,
and that's when all the fun starts. And then everybody
it gets
starts
crazy.
to move in and get set up. And it's amazing to me the amount of people that we have that come in. And if you're on opposite ends of town, you can see those people start to line up to get their positioning and so they can get in first. And then by, 8 o'clock or really midnight, I guess, on Wednesday or Thursday morning, ever how you want to look at it, everything's set up and ready to go.
Well, it's a very well-oiled machine. I mean, the
It
chamber
is.
does a phenomenal job of getting everybody in and parked, but there's a lot of other things that goes on after that. You have to get the water. UMG has to get the water hooked up. The fire inspector has to come in and inspect all the booths. So there's a lot of work that goes in after they get the trailers in. And to your point, usually we leave about 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then we come back in early the next morning, finish the inspections for those that didn't get inspected, and then by usually 10 o'clock on Thursday, all booths are open, all booths is ready, and the fun starts.
Fun starts. What are some new things that we're looking forward to this year? Anything come to mind that you want to let people know about?
No, nothing really that comes to mind. It's a lot of the same because, candidly speaking, we have jam-packed in every
I
corner.
really don't know what more we could find.
And that's the problem. And if you pull one thing away, then you get a lot of pushback from folks wanting to know why that booth isn't there or what happened there. So
Right.
it's really difficult to bring in much more than what we're doing now unless we expand it even further. And if we do that, then there's no place to park.
There is no place to park, which could be a good thing because you have people come in. Now, the everything will wrap up on the 21st. Now, I'm leading up those couple of days, the 3 days that you have there. You have the Pepsi stage that will showcase an enormous amount of talent that's from our area. The stage at the Expo Center will be used. There's another stage I know that is set up. Is that
courthouse.
in the courthouse?
Yep.
Okay, so we have all those different music venues. The music will continue all day long.
Yeah,
seems
you've
like.
got four locations, basically, actually five, because the church.
The church is what I was
also
trying to
does.
think of, yeah.
The church does music at various times. You've got on the boulevard, Pepsi does their event. Of course, the city park there, Webster, for years, does an
Bluegrass.
unbelievable job, brings in great talent. The festival would really be lost without his involvement. And then again at the Expo Center, which is new, and then of course the courthouse, on the back steps of the courthouse, the stage that is set there with a lot of the
So
vlogging
anywhere you
going on.
go, you can hear some
You're gonna
great
hear
music for sure.
You're going to hear it for
You
sure.
can just eat in the different ways in between between all the events. That's my favorite thing to do is go visit all the vendors.
And unfortunately, that's not the time to be on your diet because that's
Well, the diet goes all the way
funnel
starting
cake
on
all the
Wednesday.
way.
Yeah.
One thing I would like to stress, though, while we're on the subject before we move on, is that we urge people to please. There's a big crowd that comes in. Obviously, it's a lot to manage, and a lot of great people take the time to do this. But safety, because the Shriners Hospital is a priority, safety is also our biggest concern. So we urge people, please, not to park on the sidewalks on the, especially on the bypass. We've actually a couple of years ago had a lady hit because people were parking on the sidewalk and there was nowhere to walk. And then the other thing is that we would strongly caution is that people do park on the shoulder under the rock cliff on the bypass, and that is a state road. There's signs everywhere say not to park. Understand that there's a lot of slate that's been coming off those hills. So be very, very careful. Obviously we ask you to follow the signage, but a lot of folks don't do that. But damage or worse could happen. So
Yeah,
please
just
be aware.
certain things to be aware of. We will have a big parade on Saturday. It all comes to a head there. And then, of course, the Brantley Gilbert concert
Yes.
Saturday night at the Expo Center. I was at the Expo Center yesterday picking up some tickets, and she said, we're just about done. If you need a ticket, you need to go now.
It's always obviously a big crowd, a big event,
Yeah.
a great name. So it's going to be a great.
It's his first headlining tour, so we're going to expect some different things from a couple years ago when he was here. So a great event. Now, after Hillbilly Days is all said and done, some more fun starts, and that is when the river trails will open up the weekend following.
Absolutely, we're real excited about it. Actually, the Pride program, Sean Cochran, who's the city's Pride coordinator, worked with a group this past weekend. They did a river cleanup, so they were on the river for 4 or 5 hours, getting the river ready. Hopefully, it's that time of the year. Hopefully, the weather will cooperate with us. But the weekend after is when we open it. Again, if you're interested, you can get on the city's website or tourism website or the county's at Visit Pike County or Tour Pike County. I'm sorry,
Tour Pike County,
or visit Pikeville.com and get the phone number and the email address if you're interested in booking a tour. But candidly, there's so many people now, Jill, that has already acquired their own kayaks because they've gotten into it. but also that's when we start our pickup points. Again, you can get online, you can see what times, but all you do is you bring your truck with your kayak in the back of it down behind Texas Roadhouse, park your vehicle. We'll have a bus there with a carrier. We'll take you to one of your drops, drop you off, you float back down to where you're at, no cost.
No cost at all. I was actually on the river last weekend. I decided it was pretty and it's time to get out on the river, and I did. And
Good for you.
It was so good. And you know what? Of course, I love to go fishing and things like that too, but it was such a joy just to be out, just to float along and see everything and how things change. And right now things aren't really grown up a lot, so you get to see more of the landscape, I guess you will, of how things come together before it all gets covered with trees and leaves and things. So it was great. Can't wait to get back out again.
Well, and I'll make this statement. I said this a lot of times last year, but I'll make this statement again. If you've not been on the river and go through the cut-through project, it's a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
It really puts things in perspective of how much dirt was actually moved, being the largest earth moving project in the United States. But it's a good trip to take, very educational, but very beautiful.
You can get great pictures too if you're into photography, which I know a lot of people, not everybody likes to fish, and that's okay. They just like to see the lay of the land and the river and see the different things. That is one of the most beautiful places to take pictures because you always see something different.
Amen.
It's very nice.
Great.
So if you want to schedule a trip, Sean Cochran can certainly
We'll take care of
can give you all the information you need.
He is our expert.
He really is the expert. You know, I thought about him when I got out at Marion's Branch, you know, the other day, and I thought about Sean and how he says that's a really steep hill, and I thought, how does he get that bus, you know, up and down through here? But he works it out whichever way. So many things going on this summer as the weather starts to break, and
Yes.
you know, we get outdoors with our families. Muscle on Main begins May 10th and 11th. Another huge event.
Well, you've got the cruise in on the 10th and then the event on the 11th. We last year poured a longer pad, so there's a little different burnout that folks are now interested in.
Have you ever participated in something like that?
Personally, no, but I've been a great spectator.
Yeah, it is something to see, though.
It is a
really.
great, and a lot of folks, obviously, we get a huge turnout. The event continues to grow each year.
Kids love it.
The Good Old Boys Car Club does an absolutely unbelievable job and really take to heart. So it's the kids, like you say, and that's what the intent is, because when you look at Muscle on Main and Main Street Live and a lot of the other things that have gone on, you know, our intent with tourism is to give the folks in our area something to do every weekend, along with focusing on the Hatfield and McCoys with our partnership with the County Tourism Commission, so that when visitors, to pull visitors in to enjoy all these amenities and things that we have as well.
Certainly another program that Minta Cheney does a phenomenal job with. I mean, it really is like her baby, is the Main Street Live project. I hear so many people just rave about the different kinds of music that you'll hear, and every day, every time that they have it is a different theme, if you
Yes.
will. And that will also get underway in May.
Yeah, they will, and she's got a couple new genres that they're trying out this year. I think they're actually going with a younger group during one of the events to try to pull some of the kids in. But you know, great. Usually they do a good cookout during the event.
There's always good food.
Always good food. Great company. And it's something that now people are really looking forward to. You know, when they're having the one event, you've always got people saying, well, what's our next event going to hold? So it's become something that a lot of folks are out there really look forward to.
And when I think about Main Street Live, I know in our larger cities like Cincinnati, Louisville, Lexington, these are things that have been going on for years because they have such a vast amount of people that come to those areas, say on the weekends, to visit. But here it's something that we've kind of taken under our belt and developed for our people, and it's the exact same thing, and people really do love it and plan their weekends around what theme that's going to be.
They do, and it is, and you know, the other part of this equation is if you look at how the downtown is transformed with the city park. You know, I was just driving by yesterday, and it does my heart good to look over and see, you know, really a couple hundred kids in the park yesterday. I think a couple of school programs were in and around the area. So
Cedar Coal Fair has been going on too, so we had a lot of different school kids coming into our area.
So you know, and I live beside the park, as you know, and you know, every weekend where we've had this warm weather, it's been overran. But the park has really changed. The downtown, you know, we've put a lot of work into sidewalks and streetscaping and the walking tour and all the things that we now offer. So coming downtown is really a great experience. And then to have these type of events for people to enjoy in a very feel-good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Really,
You know
really
what I think
speaks
about with the
volumes.
park too? You have the kids that are coming, but you also see so many adults that are enjoying it, especially through the week.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
I see a lot of people, especially, this week and the week prior to, where the weather broke a little bit and it was warmer and it was nice. People go take their lunch, and there's a whole side section there, and throughout the park too, but they're right there on the side next to the parking garage, next to the Garfield house. There's so many picnic tables, and you see people there, number one, using their Wi-Fi
Right.
and working outside, which I think is a great idea, but enjoying it and having lunch outside too. Years ago, we didn't see that type of activity in our downtown area because there wasn't the infrastructure and the availability of certain things that was needed. But now it's there, and it needs to be used, and it is being used.
It is, and then the growth of the university and the
Oh,
technical
my,
college. I mean, seeing all the kids enjoy the park as well, and like you say, a lot of people eat their lunch. It's going to be one of the things we'll talk about here in a moment, but
Yeah.
I'm going to miss most about, because my office was in the park. It's no longer there.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, we walked through the other day, my wife and I, looking at, we just put new tin on the gazebo. Each year, and I'll say this for those that perform in the gazebo, but each year you've got the big bees that fly around. They don't sting, but they're annoying. But we have treated the wood, so we won't have those during Hillbilly Days this year.
What are those called? Carpenter bees?
Carpenter bees, yeah.
They like to bore holes in the
wood. So we've treated the wood so they will hopefully not return, and then we have put an insulation and a new tin on the roof so that there's no leaks. So we've done some. So I was looking at all the improvements that we'd made, but to see folks throw their blanket out on the lawn and sit down and have an actual picnic, it really does our heart good.
Yeah, and when summer gets a little bit more advanced, we'll talk about some other things that are going to happen in the
Amen.
park where
Yeah.
all those blankets can be thrown out and enjoyed by families. We talked about Main Street Live. We have another event. I mean, I just keep thinking that we're just event after event, but I love talking about those things because it brings people to our area who've never experienced Pikeville and Pike County. But Hatfield-McCoy Heritage Days, something new this year.
Yes.
Going to be a big undertaking. Going to be Labor Day weekends beginning August 31st through the 2nd. Talk a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, I know we've talked about it on a couple of shows, and you're probably going to keep hearing about it because what's happened, Jill, is this thing's taken legs of its own.
That's amazing to me. Everybody says, well, I thought we had this and I thought we had that, but this is a totally different beast that we're dealing with
It
now.
is a totally different beast. We're approaching it differently than what Hillbilly Days is. A lot of the same type of attractions. We're still going to have music, different genres than what Hillbilly Days traditionally brings. Again, vendor booths, but a lot of arts and craft. A carnival. We do have a concert that we'll be announcing probably soon. We finally worked the details out of that last week. The Riverfield. Things like a farmer's market. We're bringing to the table. So just a lot of unique and different type of things for people to enjoy. But what we're doing, honestly getting, is more calls than we ever imagined of people wanting to participate or bring in different type of booths. Then again, that are different than what Hillbilly Days bring. So it's two totally different spectrums of type of festivals. Again, spring, and then you got a fall festival almost. Different times of the year. And that was our intent, is to try to plan things around our seasons so that in between, when it gets warm, maybe right before it turns cold, we can bring multitudes of people, help the economy out, improve the quality of life, and really help. But the other part of it is that the national spotlight continues to be on our region because of the Hatfield-McCoy feud. And we've got a great partnership with the county right now, the county tourism. I spoke to the county judges. As a matter of fact, yesterday, Wayne T. and I discussed that we'll be immediately after Hillbilly Days. We haven't actually set up our committee yet that will manage this festival. We're letting right now our two tourism commissions put everything together. That's what we've hired them for. That's what Tony Tackett and Jesse Bowling's supposedly in position to do. So they're out really working hard to get everything together so that they can bring it before the board or committee to sign off on. So we'll set up our committee, our official committee, sometime with county, city, chamber, tourism, probably in the next couple of weeks, and then you'll hear more and more about the specific items that we're going to do during that festival. But it's really taken on some amazing legs, and people are really getting excited about it. I knew it would have a lot of interest, and it would be a good-sized festival. But I honestly believe it's going to be the size of Hillbilly Days at some point in a couple
very
years.
short amount of time. I believe that you're exactly right. Certainly looking forward to that. And people are able to plan their vacations. Of course, school will be back into session then, so it gives the kids something else to do on that weekend because it's like the last big weekend of summer. So
it is, and it's during holiday where they're still out. One of the things I'll make mention of, since you brought it up, is that obviously this is a little different than Hillbilly Days because we're going Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So Sunday's in there, and we have church downtown usually, but we understand that we're being respectful of that. So the intent is on that Sunday, the festival itself won't start up till noon on that day. So folks coming in will know between then and noon that we won't be festival mode. Probably what we'll do during that time frame between that morning and that evening is offer some of the driving tours of the actual feud sites.
Right.
So there'll still be something to do, but it won't
Yeah.
interfere with music or things that would interfere with
Right,
church.
and I can imagine that some churches downtown, because we do have several in our downtown area, may take their worship services outside, which I think will be really neat.
Well, and that's one of the things that we're trying to encourage them to do is we're going to have a lot of folks in the areas to invite.
That do want to
Yeah.
find a place to attend church on Sunday.
So
it's
it'd be a great opportunity for them also to
still
worship.
an opportunity. We have a lot of projects and different renovation and relocation items going on in our community right now. Let's talk about a few of those quickly. The City Hall relocation is something I know that you want to talk about because
I do.
people need to be able to find you, and it's been a big project for you. But the great thing about it is that all of city government will now be housed in one location, and the U Pike College of Business will have a home.
Absolutely. This is a great move, and for a lot of different reasons, as you said. Let me start out by saying that we want to first thank Lightyear because obviously they, in the process of them downsizing and doing what they needed to do and staying in the community, we were able to take advantage of a building that they were only using half of and allow that building to be reinvested back into our community or on Main Street, because we actually have a Main Street address. And for those of you who don't know where the old Lightyear building is if you get on the Main Street and you go to the very end, it's the building that you run into.
And you have to turn either way, or you can go straight, but if you have to turn, it's right there across from Cherokee.
You're either turning right to the Combs Bridge or you're turning left towards Cherokee on the Scott Avenue. And we're the building there in the front. The City Seal logo is already up, so it already says City Hall on it. Really is. We have been working very hard over the past couple of weeks trying to get the building ready. It's actually coming along a lot faster than what I thought it would. And there's a lot of folks to thank for that. And I did this during the commission meeting Monday night, but take a moment too, because we have been able to save the taxpayers probably $100,000 on this building. It's a great investment because candidly we paid about half of what the building is worth. So we bought the building for about 1.3 and it's worth about 2.5, 2.6. So the work that's gone on in the building, preparing it, and what's going to happen is the downstairs will be the utility office, the tax office, the code enforcement. So basically the city clerk, things that people have to touch and see, pay their utility bills, tax payments,
Right.
utility tickets, code enforcement, all those will be on the first floor. So somebody will be able to walk in and go to, it's an open doorway, go to the appropriate office that will take care of you. The upstairs will then become the administrative offices. So usually those are the offices where you have meetings with people. Main Street, the project manager, our grant administrator, our finance department, that'll be upstairs and more in a secured location. And then upstairs will also be the city commission room and then our conference room. We actually gained quite a bit of square footage in comparison to what we have now in the old academy building. The room sizes, every office gained a little bit of space, so all my personnel is really,
Everybody's happy, I bet.
tickled to death.
And parking's not going to be an issue either.
No, part of the deal is that we had a parking lot out back, and then part of the deal was it's a second gravel lot that's out back.
Right.
So we got a lot of parking behind the building. We actually bought a house that we have additional administrative offices in. It actually was completed first because Lightyear was still in the building when we bought it. So as they vacated the building, we went straight to work, and we have there was collapsible walls downstairs that we have totally reconfigured. We've had everything from new ceiling tile to the carpets done to the upstairs. The commission room is actually sheetrock and sticks, so they're working on that as we speak. The downstairs will actually be completed today, which I'm really happy with.
That's exciting.
So and the reason I bring that up and why it's important, well, before I get to that, let me say this, because I started this path and I get sidetracked at times, as you know, Jill.
You're kidding.
Every now and then. I get excited and my mind goes too many different ways, I guess. But we've had some great help. As I said, we've saved the city taxpayers a tremendous amount of money on getting the work done. UMG, this was not part of their contract, but I solicited their help to come in and do. They built some walls and they've done all of my electrical work in the building at no cost, additional cost to their contract or the taxpayers. We've had the WestCare Ashcamp group that has brought their team over for the past 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got people that is part of the program that are master drywallers that are actually licensed, or I won't say licensed, but professional painters that have done all this work for us. That we've painted every wall in the building, again at no cost to the city. We've had my fire chief Ronald Kahn and the fire marshal Eddie Greenhill has oversaw the construction projects. They're the ones that disassemble the walls in the evenings and put them all back up. And then they're building the actual commission room for me with the help of the WestCare folks. Jesse and Sean Cochran have overseen many of the projects. So we've had a great deal of using our own staff. We've not had to hire any contractors. The only contractors we had to hire, there was a couple of small leaks in the roof that we had to have repaired. But all the work has been done internal, and I'm really proud of the way that it's turned out. I know the public's going to be very happy with the mobility of the facility, because though the Academy building is a great building, and we're really tickled that the city was able to save that building at the time when it was in disrepair, but because of the historical value, there's the interior part of it you can't maneuver. You can't build new walls. You have to leave it as is, and it really made it very difficult to operate. So what has happened is the university, we've worked to deal with the university to where they will be starting up their U-Pike College of Business. So they've got some things they're offering to the community at no cost as part of our negotiations with them. And I'm not going to steal their thunder when they're ready to announce that. Actually, I'm having dinner tonight with James Hurley to wrap up some details, and so they'll be moving in. And their intent is to open up their fall enrollment this year with a full-blown program. So we're trying to vacate the building as quickly as we can so that they can get into it and start their planning and get their services going. So with all that said, we will be moving City Hall the week after Hillbilly Days. So and I'm sitting here trying to count up in my head real fast. I can't remember. I think it's the 26th. It's the Thursday after Hillbilly Days. City Hall will be closed that Thursday, Friday, the existing City Hall. So we'll be closed Thursday, Friday to move, and we'll be working that weekend to get all of our computers and all of our phones and all that stuff, everything up and operational, so that the following Monday, the existing City Hall, as folks know where it's at, will not be our City Hall anymore. It will be located on Main Street. So we want to make sure that we give plenty of notice. We've informed the press. We'll probably put out another press release that on that particular date that you'll be able to come for all your services at the old Lightyear building. Out in the front of the building, there is actually more parking spaces than what we had for the public to park. So you'll be able to park out front, easy access, obviously ADA compliant, so it's easy to get in and out of the building. So it'll be really it's a great location, great building, really taken on a great light, and it's been very low cost to get it to where we've got it today. So I'm very proud of it.
As you should be. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a lot of different street projects downtown that we want to inform people about. A few sidewalks going to be closed for a little bit, a few streets going to be adjusted. So when we come back, we'll discuss those at great length.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
Stay right there.
Pikeville and Pike County Tourism invite you to scenic Pike County, where history lives. Enjoy a tour of the famous Hatfield and McCoy feud sites in downtown Pikeville. Treat yourself to an adventure on the Hatfield and McCoy River Trails, a Kentucky Blue Water Trail. Affordable rentals of kayaks, canoes, and tubes are available. Have your own kayak? We'll pick you up and drop you off for your trip down the river. Pikeville offers comfortable accommodations, exciting attractions, and great restaurants. Make Pikeville your home away from home. Visit and enjoy wonderful attractions like the Breaks Interstate Resort Park, Jenny Wiley State Park, the Hatfield-McCoy ATV trails, and so much more, all within 30 minutes of downtown Pikeville. So what are you waiting for? Visit our website today at www.visitpikeville.com or tourpikecounty.com. Discover Pike County.
And welcome back to the City Manager's Report. As we promised before we had a little break, we're going to talk about a lot of different street projects that are going on in the downtown area that may be causing a little bit of inconvenience, but that inconvenience is going to be a good thing after they're finished. But a lot of people do have some questions about, like, the Division Street project. Let's see. We talked about the relocation of City Hall. There's a parking lot at BB&T that we want to discuss. So let's start with Division Street because it's been blocked for a little bit.
It has, and I agree with you, Jill. I mean, it is aggravating at times. You know, luckily we've got great people downtown that understand that through progress comes inconvenience.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate our business owners downtown really working with us. I think they see the vision and understand what's happening and are really excited about what's the outcome of what our community is going to look like, and then the mobility of our community as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening, and there's some things that are still being taken under consideration that probably will happen that I thought we would take a few moments to kind of explain. Division Street, if you've been there, what's happened is that the Judicial Center is almost nearing completion. You can now see the landscaping and everything coming to light.
It is unreal. And let me say this, I was on the bypass the other day and just happened to look over. I was, passing Dorsey's and Earl's Market, and I looked over, and it, I've seen it under construction for a while now, and now that it's nearing completion, it just kind of took my breath, because I thought, what a beautiful building in our downtown area. Completely changes our landscape and will be used for such great things in our area.
Well, I've had the great pleasure of serving on that board, and it has been, a long few years to get through the project, but it's been very worthwhile. There's some great men and women now serving on the board that have done an absolutely great job. We've worked well together. We've really tried to do the right thing for the community. I appreciate certainly Judge Rutherford's leadership on that board. He's done a great job at keeping us on track and knowing what our mission was and to get us where we're at. But I will say this, and I mean this sincerely, the AOC has tried not to go on record in saying, but they will, I think if you asked them point blank, they would tell you that this is probably the prettiest building that they have designed or had designed and have built. So they're really excited about the way that this has turned out. The architect firm, Steve has done, just an absolutely wonderful job, and they were great to work with. And so was the construction companies. Codell Construction oversaw the project, but a lot of great things took place. Now, if you look at now that you see the fences coming down and the landscape and the sidewalk clearing up, people can kind of see what the vision was. Because like any other project, when you go downtown and you take out a block, you raise the whole block, you wonder what's coming back in its place. And yeah, there was some history that was taken, but the functionality of our community and the need to have, to stabilize. One of our issues with our region right now is diversifying our economy. And we had to really had to shore up our legal position, because our legal sector is a big driving force of our economy.
Downtown.
So keeping our Judicial Center downtown, and because there's been examples where they have moved outside of town and it's really just decimated the downtown area. So having a magnificent building that will serve our community for over 100 years to come, and where it's located on Main Street and the way that it turned out, is something really to be proud of. But there was one, from the city's perspective, there was a piece of it that, unfortunately because of budgeting, was going to have to be left out, and that was the expansion of Division Street and some additional parking. So we, again, appreciate and worked with the county judge, Judge Rutherford, and we received an easement from the fiscal court by a vote of the fiscal court, seeing the benefit as well, to where the city has taken on the project of widening that street. So what you see now is it's been closed off for a couple of weeks, and what we're doing is pushing the sidewalk back into almost like a T, and there'll be diagonal parking all the way down Division Street across. So the parking now that is horizontal will no longer be there.
So almost, would it provide more spaces, I would think, in a way?
It will provide additional spaces, but what it will do is it will help our traffic flow, because that street right now is one way, it will become two way.
Okay.
So what you will have the ability of doing is coming all the way from the boulevard to the Riverfield now with a street light. So when you come to Division Street, which is where the police station is, that's one of the only streets there in Huffman we have a street light. To where if you go down to Pike Street, which is all the way through, you have a stop sign. So sometimes it's difficult to get out on Pike Street if you're turning left back towards the Hampton end of the university, where in this case you'll be able to come off the Riverfield and go straight through beside the courthouse onto Division Street, beside the new Judicial Center, and then down where our office supply building was, and then by the police station, and hit a traffic light to be able to turn left. So
much needed.
It's a great project. And then the other part of this is it really cleans it up, because one of the things that I was trying to be persistent with, and then we looked at this as an added benefit, because having that additional parking there and the way it's laid out with the new theater project being built will have some benefits to the theater project as well, along with the Judicial Center. So when we laid it out and looked at it, the only sidewalk, they'd replaced all the sidewalk all around the building other than on Division Street. So that sidewalk was not going to be replaced. So by doing this project, the sidewalk is being paid for by the project. The blacktop and all the construction work is being paid for by the city. And then we'll retain the permanent easement for public, and the purpose of it is for public parking. So it will be 2-hour parking, handicap spaces by KRS. Whenever you set up a parking time frame, then it's doubled. So the handicap parking will then become 4 hours. The rest of the parking will become 2 hours, or 2 handicap spaces on the street, and the rest will be single diagonal parking. So they are coming this coming Monday to lay the blacktop. The sidewalk should be finished by Friday. The blacktop will be laid on Monday, and then the striping will be put down on Wednesday. So by Wednesday of next week, we'll have a fully functional open street. And I really appreciate Mountain Enterprise working with me, because we kind of jumped in there and asked them to get it done sooner than later, because I wanted it finished by Hillbilly Days,
Right.
so that people wouldn't be struggling or walking into areas where there might be a danger. And then in conjunction with that same project is the project with the project for the Judicial Center that Codell's overseeing. Is that it has, and it's been frustrating for me as well, but on the corner of Pike Street there, where the tattoo parlor is there on the corner, that's been blocked off, one lane through, and people have to stop if you're coming from the Riverfield towards the boulevard. The reason for that is they had to dig up that brick stamp there when they ran the new lines for the Judicial Center, and now they're putting them back. So that is supposed to be completed. Actually, I think they're supposed to start working on it today being Wednesday. So it's supposed to be hopefully completed by Friday. Probably won't be open until after this weekend. So hopefully by this coming Monday, that'll be completed. Those fences take down, traffic flow around that area, which has been a big inconvenience, I know, will be completed.
A lot of people had questions about that, so I'm glad that we had the opportunity to clear up those 2 projects, because I wondered myself. I was through there a couple days ago, and I had to stop there right in front of that business, and I thought, what is going on here? So it's good to know. And of course, the addition of the Division Street parking and the way that that's going to be expanded is certainly a great need, and will benefit all of our businesses downtown, especially Jenny Wiley Theater and the businesses you have along that street.
Well, that's one of the streets that I'll add that the Main Street program is now picked up and working on as a facade program. So they're working with the business owners down there right now. And so you'll see some improvements to those business storefronts over the next couple of months to come. And on top of that, you mentioned BB&T, the parking lot there also. We went in and actually just finished it last week. It had a lot of potholes, for lack of a better way of putting it, if you're parking. That is privately owned. It's owned, the parking lot beside BB&T, close to the church, as you go down the Riverfield. That is owned by them, but the city worked with Jack Burchett and their corporate office, and we have leased that parking lot for a period of 5 years, and which has allowed us to go in and make it public parking. We've gone in and took a roller and put new gravel in and smoothed it all out, so it's a lot smoother, a lot safer, but that is a public parking area now. So we're again trying to, if you look at because some of the folks have had some concerns have been voiced, that if you look at the parking that we lost there where the new theater's going, so we've tried to replenish some of that parking, when in actuality we've actually gained parking as a whole, because where the AOC bought the parking as part of the project, we bought the parking lot that was beside T&D Sporting Goods, which used to be the old car lot. So that is now,
That parking lot is finished.
it's beautiful, it's finished. So we gained parking there. We took over, though that people were parking in BB&T lot, we've put it into configuration, hopefully we can get some additional cars in there. The Division Street parking will have a few extra parking places, and then also behind the Judicial Center, though it is gated parking, there is some additional parking there.
Yes.
So again, understand that those vehicles were still parking on the Riverfield, we're still taking up parking, it's just now specified parking. So we actually ended up with a net gain, because the parking that was beside of the old Dahlhaus building, which is where the theater's going to be built, that was private parking owned by Mr. Hensley. We did a property swap, so he moved his parking behind the train. So all that parking was just relocated, so we didn't lose it. So again, overall, there was a net gain of a couple of spaces. We didn't, and that was very important to the commission. And then the other part of this, as I said, is the way that traffic flows around the city. So you just mentioned again, as we discussed, Division Street will open up to 2 ways when we finish that all the way. And then another project that's being taken under consideration is actually Main Street. The commission is debating. We're looking at the size of the street, but on Main Street from Pike Street to Scott Avenue, that section there, which is one way, and that's where you go by the Blue Raven and the parking lot in front of the movie theater. That street is being debated at this point, whether to open it up as 2-way also. So right now we've got 2 or 3 parking places on the left-hand side of the street that would be taken. And in doing that, you could double lane that and at least bring 2-lane traffic all the way to Pike Street. So what that would do is that would benefit all those businesses that are there on Pike Street, because people coming off the bypass or off of Town Mountain would be able to utilize the Combs Bridge there. and then come up the street left instead of having to go down either 2nd Street or having to go down to 3rd Street or farther. So by taking that traffic and coming up Main Street, you would then be able to turn either right on Pike Street or left onto the Riverfield. So it would make getting to your point of destination a little easier and smoother. Plus, again, the intent is that as we open up these new businesses and as the downtown area grows, is to try to make the traffic spread out as equally and as best as we can, and not really impede upon these businesses to give them good opportunities. So that'll be the next project that we'll probably take a serious look at, but we're going to wait until after the Judicial Center is completed before that we address that.
Okay.
But it's coming.
It is coming, and it's going to really help the area downtown. One other project that has been going on is that's at the Bob Amos Overlook. A lot of people, even if you're downtown, you can look up on the hill where you see the overlook, and there's been machinery and dirt. And I went up there a couple days ago to have lunch at one of the shelters, and I thought, wow,
well,
always something happening, but it's finished.
It just finished. We're glad to finally get through, and that unfortunately it was just caused by a lot of rain that we had this year. We had a big slide up there, and we had to close part of the overlook section, but it was an unbudgeted project, but just want to let the folks know that it is all back open, it is finished, and it's now safe. So we're glad that we're finally
go back and have lunch.
Take
one of the shelters.
Great location if you haven't been up there to have lunch to see. It's just a really, that park is transformed also, which leads into the
horse trail.
Yeah, the horse trail project.
The horse trail.
I apologize because at the last taping I announced that the project had started when in actuality it had not. It was supposed to have been signed that day, but there was some problems with the Department of Local Government on some forms that we had to have submitted that wasn't any fault of our own, with some environmental issues that we had to wait to get. So now that is in officially, Monday, the project actually started. So they have been, the contractor has a notice to proceed. So that whole area up there is going to take on a whole different look as well. The overlook obviously changed drastically a couple of years ago, but the second level picnic shelter there right past the water tank is where the new barn will be built, and the new trail will take place.
The trail is going to be in there, and when Sean joined us a couple of weeks ago, he talked about another hiking trail that we're working on to implement that will be a little bit more rugged, a little bit more primitive, if you will, much like what they have around the Jenny Wiley or the Dewey Lake at Jenny Wiley State Park. So that's something that will kind of tie into that entire area and give people another opportunity to get out with their families and stay in the hills just a little bit longer, either by horseback or on foot. So another great opportunity we're going to have for fitness and family fun in our community, which is something that we're very excited about and want to encourage people to do.
Amen.
Another project that has been going on, and I know that it's nearing completion, but it had to be done, was the Peach Orchard project.
Yes, I know, again, we discussed this a little bit before we came on air, and there's a little bit of minor inconvenience there, but we ask again and appreciate the folks who live and work there to put up with this construction project. And what's basically happening is all that water that's coming off the hills being rerouted. We are currently under, like many other cities throughout the state of Kentucky, we are under what you call an agreed order through the Division of Water being pushed by the EPA. And simply put is that under the Clean Water Act, and I'm kind of frustrated. I know a lot of other folks have been frustrated, but this is very important for the folks out there to understand, because it is a federal violation that you may be violating and not be aware of. Candidly speaking, I was and wasn't aware of, as many other homes in the city was. Back about 50, 60 years ago, when the Division of Water, their preferred method, under their policy and rule, their preferred method for stormwater and runoff, rooftop water, so your drains that come off your roof, or the way that the city runs the ditch lines, is to take that water and to put it into your sewer pipe, basically. So what happens then is that when you have a significant rain event, all the water that comes off the roof and all the water that comes through those ditch lines then flows into the sewer plant, and the sewer plant overruns. It just overflows and ends up in the river. It's called a combined overflow. Communities all across the nation experience this because of the preferred method. If it's not raining, you have twice the capacity usually to use within your sewer plant, but when you have a significant, especially significant event, there's no way to stop it. So under the Clean Water Act, the federal government passed basically a mandate that says that by this year, a specific year, you have to have all that off. And you can't have, I wouldn't say you have to have it off, you do have to have it off, but you cannot have these combined overflow problems. You have to try to get as much what they call I&I out of your system as possible. So Communities that had repetitive overflow problems went under through the Division of Water what they called an agreed order. And that's basically us sitting down with them saying we agree that we will meet these terms and make this effort within this time frame. So over the last couple of years, we've spent quite a bit of money, which is why, candidly speaking, it's an unfunded mandate. We went to our congressman and said this isn't fair. The EPA was one that, or the Division of Water was originally one that forced us to put it in the storm sewer system, and now they're mandated we take it out, and it's going to cost us, $1 million to get it out. So it's an unfunded mandate. So we were able to get through coal severance and some other grants, some money that we've been working on again the past several years. And if you look downtown, even if you, 3rd Street's a good example where you can see it, and you notice one little small patch in the road in the middle of the road where the road has been dug out. It looks like it's caving in a little bit. That's where we've gone in and have had to dig up the street and reroute all this stormwater. Peach Orchard is the last project that we lacked that actually has a significant amount of stormwater that's running into our sewer plant. So this project, through the agreed order, was necessary. We had no choice to do it. But the other problem is also to reroute some of the water that's been standing or that's been up there that's been a problem on Peach Orchard. And again, because of our topography and the slope of the land there, when you have a significant event, it all goes to the valley, and therefore that water has to go somewhere, so it ends up in the stormwater, which ends up in the sewer plant. So this project will fix that. And it will help us. Actually, we have already been notified by the Division of Water that we have met our requirements and that we will be removed very shortly from the agreed orders. We'll no longer be under this. But where I say that the public needs to be aware of is the stormwater coming off of your roofs. It is not permissible to have your stormwater tied into the sanitary sewer lines, which a lot of people still have done. So what we have done over the last several years is that UMG has gone into neighborhoods and we do what they call a smoke test. We'll take a neighborhood at a time. They don't go on the property. They go into a drain line that's somewhere near the property, and basically they put smoke into the system, and then they stand back and look at the rooftops to see if that smoke comes up your rain gutter. Those people that were notified, or that seen, they got a letter from under my signature explaining to them that they have to come off. Now, I want folks to understand, it's not the city saying that you have to come off, it's the federal government saying that you have to come off. Yeah. And if once we determine that somebody is on and failure to do so, then that homeowner can come under substantial penalty and fines that certainly we don't want them to. So we have worked with, and literally we pulled hundreds of people off of the stormwater or the sewer plant system in order to adhere to what this agreed order. So this Peach Orchard project that's what it's doing. I know it's a long explanation, but again, people need to be informed and understand if somebody from the Division of Water or the EPA knocks on your door, that may be the reason that they're knocking.
Yeah, it has to be done.
And it will
be completed soon too, though.
I'm sorry?
It will be completed soon.
It will, and we've gone through most of the city, and pretty much I would say we're probably 95% in compliance with getting people off. And like I just said a moment ago, I didn't realize my home was one of the ones on, so I had to, you run it off. And the preferred method, by the way, because people want to know, is to let the natural flow of water of your land. So you run your drains off, and that's why you got a downspout that's got an elbow on it, is to pull the water away from your foundation, but to let it run typically into your yard. Now, some people still, because of the flat slope, need to tie it into some kind of drain pipe and then run it to the ditch line, which is fine as well. But just people need to be aware.
Yeah, they do. Now, Keyser Heights is a project that we're going to talk about a little bit. 3 weeks, we'll start replacing some of the broken areas in that neighborhood.
Yeah, this has been, we've had a couple of the residents that have come to the commission on a couple of occasions asking. I know our new commissioner, Commissioner Coleman, has been a big advocate of this project, and I've worked with him to make this thing happen. The commission was very concerned about it, and what's happened is the city accepted that into the city's road system many, many years ago, but it's concrete. And the problem with concrete is that it's expensive. Mm-hmm. It's not, unlike blacktop's expensive enough, but concrete is not a matter of just patching over top of it. You've got to dig it up, and there's a lot of expense involved in all that. So to replace that whole area up there is probably about a $2 million project. And candidly, we don't spend $2 million on a road system. It probably takes us 5 years to spend $1 million. So it's a very sizable project. So we debated a different way to approach it. The thought was to go up and layer a skin of blacktop, thick layer of blacktop, and then a skim over top of it. But the problem with that is that where the concrete is already broken, you'll have seepage, and when the weather gets cold and then it gets warm, it freezes and contracts and expands, and you'll have that concrete will be broken in a matter of time. So what we elected to do is to go up there in phases and do the worst areas first, and then hopefully and if an area is not broken, then we won't touch it. So hopefully over the next maybe 5 or 10 years, we'll all be replaced. But we've got our first project that will start probably in 3 weeks. I just talked to the contractor yesterday. We put it out for bid. H2O Construction was awarded the bid, and talked to them yesterday. They were waiting for the weather to break so that they know because concrete needs to be able to set up without a lot of rain or a lot of cold temperatures. So it's been awarded. The first section that will be replaced is as you top the hill there. You'll notice there's a real big section where you can turn left or right as you come to the stop sign. That whole area right there is the first area that'll be replaced. So need to let folks know to be patient with us. That again, because of the cost, we have to be strategic in how we plan that out to make sure we have the funding to do it. But we do notice, we do recognize, and we are going to address it.
Fix that. One thing we mentioned earlier was Jenny Wiley Theater and the construction going on down there. Let's get a little bit of an update.
Oh, this has been this is a great project, obviously, as you know, Jill, and I'm real excited to be part of it. And we've got a great partnership with the Jenny Wiley Drama Association. But there's been a holdup on the project, and hopefully, my hope is we canceled this past Monday's meeting, which is our regular scheduled meeting. My hope is within 2 weeks. By this Friday, I should have all the bids back. What has happened over the reason that we've kind of held it up, being very blunt, is that the bids came back and there was some overages on some of the bidding. And the reason there was overages is that Jenny Wiley determined that there was some additional needs that they had for the theater in order to be able to have the type of performance that they need. We've been very stern in what our budget is and making sure that we understand that we can't go over that budget. So we've been able to work with the architect and the management company and the Drama Association to where we now have it within the budget, and we're getting the building that we expect. Actually, we're getting a great value for this building. So hopefully by this Friday, I'm supposed to have all the bids back. We've already discussed them. I had 3 conference calls last week over this. I went up and met with the architects in New York. So everything's now in line. We know where our number is. It's where we needed it to be. Everything and then some actually is added to the building. So hopefully within the next week to 2 weeks at the longest, we'll actually be awarding that bid, and then construction should start shortly thereafter. So we're probably about a month behind on this project, and it's only because we wanted to make sure that we were doing our fiduciary responsibility and the due diligence to make sure that we came within our budget. So it's on target, it's on track. Everybody, matter of fact, I had a conversation this morning before I came here with Miriam, who's the chairman of the Jenny Wiley Drama Association, and they've got some things that they're doing also to add. Actually, they're injecting some money into this project as well to get some additional fixtures that they wanted. So everybody's on the same page now. It's right where it needs to be. I had a conversation with the commission on Monday's meeting, and they're eager to get it going and understand. So everything's moving full steam ahead, and hopefully next week or the week after we'll have a special meeting and give them the notice to proceed.
You know, I can't let you out of here today without asking for it.
Where
Where
are
we? Well, you know, I get asked because they know, I guess, that we spend this time together, but it's the retail development. We have about a minute to talk about it. Sure. Just on track, what's expected, what's going on?
The answer is yes. We are, and I actually have some number or some dates, I guess, that I can say and hope that we will reach. Everything, again, is every time you ask me, it's the same issue. We're just waiting on the post office to finish their due diligence. I spoke with the post office week before last. Everything is moving forward. The developer has his plans. His people are actually on the ground. They've been doing core samples. They inspected the existing post office last week. They're doing their blueprints and their workup. Candidly speaking, he's probably spent about $250,000 to $300,000 already getting his schematics and his design ready. One big change that I don't think you would mind if I announced it. It's not necessarily the stores, but originally we had talked about him building 80 apartments there. Mm-hmm. That has changed to 200 apartments.
Really?
It'll be a 5-story complex. He's working with the local real estate agent, AAA Realty. Shirley is now working, so if anybody's interested, they can contact her. It's on
her website.
It's on her website.
Yes.
They're taking pre-orders for when the facility is completed. The house that the city owns, there's actually some folks living in it right now, which they understand eventually they're going to have to move, but they're inspecting that house tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So everything is moving forward. The only thing we're waiting on is for the post office for us to close. Our projected closing date is June 27th. So if we close on that date by July 1, he's ready to go to work.
Right.
So and I've talked to the post office several times. They're telling me everything's on target, everything's looking good, shouldn't be a problem.
We do want to say welcome and congratulations to 2 new city police officers that have been hired.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sonny Buckley and Joshua Tackett is our 2 newest. We made a conditional job offer to them. They probably won't start the academy for another month or so, but great guys, really went through the whole string of interviewing. They'll be a great asset in addition to the force.
Absolutely, and 2 new sergeants promoted.
Yeah, David Atkins and of course our Michael Riddle, 2 great officers. Both of them came on. It was 2 of my first hires actually when I became city manager in 2004. So they've been with the city now for a while. They've really earned their keep and done a great job, and they've made a great addition to the force, newly promoted. So congratulations
Congratulations and welcome to them. Hillbilly Days gets underway on April 19th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, the weekend after the rivers open up. The weekend after that, May 10th, Muscle on Main, then Main Street Live. Lots to get to, lots of dates to write down. Donovan, always a pleasure.
Moving and shaking. Mine too.
We'll meet back the week after Hillbilly Days to discuss what happened and have some great pictures.
We'll do a wrap up.
All right.
Sounds great.
This has been your City Manager's Report. It has been our pleasure to be with you. Join us next time.